Mike Gill. I'm bringing you the fix today. And trust me, this was not easy to do. This is not something that they want out of there. I am being threatened constantly through the courts, agencies throughout the state, all because they don't want me to tell you the whole organization of corruption. Well, you know what? I'm going to bring it to you today. I am going to show you how it works. I am going to show you how they get paid. I'm going to show you who they are and what they've done and where they came from. When we're done, there'll be no question of all their guilt. I'm not asking you to believe. Everything I'm saying is backed up with depositions, emails, hard evidence. There'll be no question, and I'll step you through it. So the difference now is, we've solved this crime. And this is going to be our course of action. I read everyone's comments. I know that you're frustrated. And then I know you all know it's corrupt, because you told me that. Here's the difference. We've got a formula here. We've got a plan. First thing we do is we sign a petition. A petition that you create an email. And you say, I've seen this evidence, and I want it to be investigated. I also want you to put it on an email if you've had an experience through the court or any state agency, know of corruption, or been a victim of corruption. You send me that email too. We're starting a petition with me behind it. You know what politicians love? Numbers. Let's give them numbers. Let's see if we can't shake one of them loose. If we can't, we may have to do it ourselves. And you know what? I'm prepared to do that. But let's see if we can't bring the Department of Justice in Washington down on these guys. I want you to step through this with me. And at the end, you tell me if you don't believe. You tell me you don't understand what has happened to this state, what has happened to justice, and what could happen to your children living in this corrupt society. We can end it right now. Watch this video. And then we've got to act. The fix. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. It's really that simple, folks. We got to care about one another. Listen, I didn't lose any money in FRM, but who's been fighting harder? This is your organizational chart of pure corruption. Every name here is involved in the corruption in your state and running it, and not legally. Let's start at the AG's office. I'd like to start by telling you, if the state is corrupt, it also means every single agency in that state is also corrupt and complicit. Let's start with the AG's office. How many people know what they actually do? Well, they are the chief legal officer for the state. You could say they're the #1 cop. Or you could read down, it says it's the people's lawyer for the citizens. Well, let's check. Some of their influence is over state agencies, child enforcement, consumer protection, antitrust. But let's not miss this. They represent the state and its state's agency before state and federal courts, handling criminal appeals and serious statewide criminality. So who is your AG? It's a gentleman by the name of Joseph Foster. That's him right there. Now guess what? Mr. Foster is an attorney. And he's worked, previous to this, to McLean Law Firm for 29 years as a business litigator. I'm not sure what makes him the AG, but 29 years for the same law firm. Now, who do you think he's loyal to? Well, let's go to the AG before him, Michael Delaney. Now, he was the AG when the FRM Ponzi scheme was going on. In fact, if you go down, he says that he wants to combat financial crimes. Really nice job, by the way. Now, where do you work now, Mr. Delaney? He works for McLean. Well, how do you like that for a coincidence? We have Foster for 29 years for McLean and Delaney. In fact, guess what? Delaney took Foster's job. What a coincidence. The AG from the same law firm, same job. But wait a minute. Who was the AG before Delaney? Oh, that's right. It was Kelly Ayotte. Now, where did she work before she became your AG? Uh-oh. McLean again. Your last 3 AGs over the last 20 years have all came from the same law firm. You know, insurance defenders. In fact, if you read, considering this Ayotte regarding FRM, it says here, Ayotte has been criticized for her former office, alleged failure to investigate charges against mortgage investment fraud. $80 to $100 million Ponzi scheme. Wow. Well, wait a minute. If that Ponzi scheme was out of the banking department and they were complicit, and they could have a giant class action lawsuit across the state through assurers, well, just what? It's a good thing we've got McLean Law Firm on the case. So we can say, and I do, that McLean Law Firm has controlled your AG's office for the last 20 years. You remember. The citizen's attorney, the people's attorney. Yeah, bullshit. Now, who appointed them? They get appointed by the governor. There's Governor Hassan. You know, I went to Governor Hassan directly and told her about all the incrimination going on in the courts and the Banking Commission and the DRA and state agencies through the state. You know what? She looked very concerned. And then she sent it to the AG's office. You know, the place they make everything disappear, and that's exactly what happens. Now, let's focus on Miss Hassan for a second. Do you see what I've underlined there? Do you know she owes her career to Shaheen? Not my words, hers. You can read it. So we could say Shaheen is controlling the governor's office, which exactly is what I'm saying. And let's not forget that Jean Shaheen and hubby owned the law firm of Shaheen and Gordon. So, we can agree that the AG's office has been controlled by one law firm. Now, let's look at our 2 senators. Ayotte, Shaheen. Now, Ayotte's loyalty is with McLean, and their job is to cover. And that's why they control the AG's office, and that's why she was the AG's office. Now, she covered up for Shaheen. Now, let's look at Shaheen, Senator Shaheen. You do realize she's one of the owners of Shaheen Gordon, or what I like to say, the cash registers of the deal. The law firms are where the cash is transferred. That's how they do make their money. Now, Shaheen targets enemies with the IRS. I would call her my enemy. Letters link Jean Shaheen to IRS targeting scandal. That's exactly what she does. We've got Ayotte that can put pressure on you through the AG's office and then through the courts. We got Shaheen that turns around and puts the IRS on you and leverages the governor. Think about that. And guess what? Her daughter's running for governor. So let's think about this. And her disciple Hassan's running for senator. Could you believe that one law firm could control your governor and 2 senators? I can believe it. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. All right. So you see those law firms on the right and left? That's where the cash goes in. That's exactly right. Now let's go to McLean. This is how it works. The largest customer for these law firms, without a doubt, is the insurance company. That's where they make their money, and then the money they steal from you. Now, Liberty's not alone, but they are the major player in all this. They have worked incorruptly with all these law firms. I showed you McLean. They're insurance defenders. Foster was an insurance defender. How about your banking commissioner? He's an insurance defender. You know where he came out of? The AG's office, and before that? That's right, McLean. These are the people cashing in. Wiggins and Norrie. They had your U.S. attorney. They have your Superior Court. Shaheen and Gordon only has your governor and senator. McLean, the other senator, and all of the AG's office. Divine Millimat was going to get Alex Walker as your governor. See? That's the control. Your judges, your state agencies are run quite literally about these law firms. That's how it works. And that's who they loyal for. Foster works for McLean for 29 years defending the insurers. That's where they're loyal. Morris Mahoney is the #1 defender for, guess what? Liberty Mutual. Now you just met McLean Law Firm. I only think it's proper you meet the rest of the law firms that run your state. Let's go to Wiggins and Norrie. Now, they closed down after about 140 years of being around while I was suing them. Now, I would like to tell you that I had a lot to do with that. But I think it had to do a lot more with John Ross and the criminality in a divorce court and matching funds. That was Wiggins and Norrie's piece, amongst other, was the family court and controlling the courts. And that was that gentleman doing that. I had to represent myself. For $10 million, I couldn't get a lawyer. You see the guy sitting to my left? He was only the New England Bar Association president, and Ross used to be the New Hampshire president. Now, he was your top guy at Wiggins. So, let's go back. So the #2 guy in the state, the CEO and the leader of Wiggins, just forged my fee agreement. Now, you see? See my driver's license? Now, you tell me that's my name. See? Ross. And I didn't know that to the trial. They must have forgot. They must have not thought through it, or they were going to keep it from me. But there it is. Now, Wiggins was my divorce attorney. This is where I found the criminality through the divorce courts. My attorney was also, besides Ross, was Dalla Sedgwick. Now, when I've been going through all this, I figured something else, so I started speaking to Dalla. What you're seeing is Dalla's statement. I'll leave everything here you can read, but let me just highlight a couple things. At that time, I did not know, but would soon learn from associate conducting legal resource that Ross had represented Tober in many cases of ethical and legal malpractice. Well, how do you like that? They shouldn't have been working together. Ross was using Tober. Remember I said that? If you're going to be corrupt, you better hope your best friend's on the other side. I caught Ronnie Wise, the head of the PCC, which controls attorney's license. They turned it over to Tober. Tober was the hatchet man. And these two knuckleheads were going to play catch. Look what on with Dalla said. Given the above, disqualified Tober, Mr. Gill's wife. The basis of the motion was aforementioned conflicts of interest, overall impropriety. This was Dalla Sedgwick's statement. Gill was unaware of the conflict of interest relating to Tober, representing me and Ross. It turns out that Tober was Dalla Sedgwick's attorney too. For example, there'd be no depositions. If Sarah Gill was to have a deposition, that Tober or Ross would quite literally fake a heart attack. Tober was in constant communications with Ross. They were telling them every move. They were playing catch. Tober's job was to get through statutes of limitations to save Ronald Wise. So let's meet Dalla Sedgwick. She came forwards, gave me the information, told me about what they were doing. Let's see what happened to Dalla. There she is. She was one of the top divorce attorneys in New Hampshire. I just read you her statement about the corruption. Now let's see what happened to Dalla. The engagement letter was forged. Remember the one I told you about Ross? This is what she said back to me. I am afraid I'm being psychologically, physically, and financially tortured. I am scared to death. I am completely alone. Keep going. She tells me where she is. I am scared to death for my life, and I need help. Dalla Sedgwick. So, her reward is, she's in hiding in Oklahoma. She's afraid for her life. Now, I want you to remember that. She was the right-hand person of John Ross. John Ross is one of the key figures in this whole organization. She's in fear of her life. Well, let's go to a couple of other Wiggins disciples. Let's go to the U.S. Attorney Kakavas. Did you know he came from Wiggins? He did. And you know what I did? I called up Alex Walker from Divine Millimat and told him I was reporting all this crime, FRM, the whole thing. You see that knucklehead up there? He gave me a target letter the next day. That's right, me. And you know what it said? They wanted all files from 4 and 5 years ago. Really? You know what's interesting about that? I know, they know, and Walker know. You only keep the files for 3 years. This was a warning shot over my head. Right? This is the same guy, let's go back to his face. This is the same guy who was the prosecutor of FRM. Wow. Remember, he's from Wiggins. And when he left Wiggins, he formed his own practice with Mark Howard. Now, you know who was the defense attorney for FRM? You won't believe this. Mark Howard. They just broke the practice up 3 months before, and now, remember, his best friend, if you're going to do corruption's on the other side. There he is. Let's hit Kakavas announces retirement. Now this, I will take credit for. How's that? He resigns. You know why? Because we were pressing him on the FRM. He gets out of there. I filed a complaint with the Department of Justice in Washington. Who do you think he works for? But that's what his loyalty was. And he is connected to FRM in the prosecution. Let's go back. We're not done yet with Wiggins. Wiggins has other disciples. How about Superior Court LaPlante? So you just saw Wiggins controls the U.S. Attorney. Well, it also controls the Supreme Court. See our friend LaPlante right there? You know who his mentor is? John Ross. From Wiggins and Norrie. That's right. That's where he used to work. And he called John Ross his mentor. Well, guess what? So when you have a case going to the Supreme Court, he shoots it down. Mike Rowe, Liberty Mutual case, right? Did you know that case was defended by, wait for it, Morris Mahoney? Wow. And before the appeal, you know who represented the case? Kakavas from Wiggins and Norrie. You know, the same where this guy came from. How's that for a conflict? You know, this is the same son of a bitch who shut down the Banking Commission complaint. You see? That's his job. Shut it down. I want you to understand this. This one individual stopped from getting the Banking Commission investigated and stop Liberty Mutual with its corruption. That case was called the May-Hold Act. For instance, if you get in a car accident and it's not your fault, you can recover all losses. For instance, if you had any personal loss of the car or the devaluation of the car, you get that money first. That's called made whole. Guess what? Nobody does it. Mike, he was an executive in Liberty Mutual who testified in a court case and said it was corrupt and what they were doing in New Hampshire was corrupt. What did he do? Liberty Mutual fired him. He filed a lawsuit, and guess what? They shot it down. And don't forget, your U.S. Attorney Kakavas, he was on the case too before he left. All right, let me introduce you to some more people. Let's go back. Let's go to Shaheen and Gordon. Right? This is also the cash register. See Bill there? You saw a check. That check's for $100,000. It's extortion. And if you look at the comment section, I said that any use of this other than the traffic light would be unlawful. Well, it was extortion and Bill Shaheen got the whole 100. Right. See, that's how it works. It's called the Billy tax. And he's enforcer. Who do you think his enforcer might be? Oh, I don't know. Gene Shaheen and the governor? That's right. Any big company coming into this state, what do you think they go through? Shaheen and Gordon. And used to be Wiggins. They're on the run. Listen, we haven't met anybody yet today that's outside that circle. The story I wanted to tell you is, I had a building I built in Somersworth, New Hampshire. Had a sign up there. Bill Shaheen invited me to lunch. Me and him sat down, had lunch, went back to his office. He showed me a painting of a horse. Knowing that I like horses, he asked me if I wanted to buy it for $50,000. Now I looked at this painting and it looked a little bit color by numbers, so I declined. Well, turned out it cost me double. Because then he put the city of Haverhill on me about a sign and needing a light, and they took my $100,000. It's all right. But let's use it to put his ass in jail. Because this guy's been doing it through the state for years. Now, see that lady? She'd worked for me for 30 years. I've known Lisa since she was 15 years old. Her husband got in trouble for molestation. Front page of the Lawrence Eagle Tribune. Bill Shaheen had that done. Right. He needed to extort her. You see, she was my controller. And since that point, she could either keep her children or her husband goes to jail and they take her kids away. That's what he did. I think you should know these people who run your state. That's the kind of people. So from that point on, she was destroying files, destroying evidence, bringing in the lawyers that they wanted. She was my contact. She was my controller for the company. Next. But that's Bill Shaheen. And that's how they leverage. All right? Let's go to Divine Millimat. You see that guy? Whether you know it or not, he was going to be your next governor. That's right. He was the president of Divine Millimat. Now, they seem to have less of a piece than some of the other boys. But he is nipping at their heels. And you know what? Throwing me under the bus was his ticket. Right. So all this criminality, I would go through him. All the criminality through the courts. I reported the FRM scam to him directly. You know who his best friend is? You'll like this. Kakavas. That's who turned around and told Kakavas to give me a target letter to shut up because he knew I was going to the authorities. Now that's what he did. He leveraged me with all these pieces. His control of the DRA, the IRS. But look what he asked me for. Walker's release. This is his own statement. You see that? He wants a full release from all claims that could be raised based on statements by Mike Gill in an email together with non-disclosure. This guy wants a release. Let's go back. He's releasing him from all the criminality that Divine Millimat was performing. And he leveraged the IRS, the DRA, and that's why we had a DRA issue. Now let's go to the IRS. You know the one they leveraged me with? This was something I was never supposed to see. And you know why? It was a taxpayer advocate. On the very day that they were leveraging me, they'd already got an agreement from the taxpayer advocate. You see, it was only a mistake. In fact, they apologized. You see that? Issues preventing that. You know who made the mistake? They did. Walker did. On purpose. Right. The IRS is involved in this. You remember? Shaheen controlled the IRS. You see this Janet Rumsford? I never saw this agreement. We found it after we fired Tracy, years later. That's right. And then when we contact Rumsford and Titka, guess what? They said they lost the paperwork in the basement. Hard to believe? Well, we put it on videos. All right, let's go back. So, that was Alex's Walker claim for fame. In fact, I'll tell you about Walker. He organized the prosecution of FRM. That's right. The whole thing was a fraud. Now let's go to Morrison. Now I'll remind you, they were my attorneys, malpractice attorneys. One of the best in the country, except for they don't do malpractice. They're insurance defenders. Quite literally, Liberty Mutual, who is defended by the whole state. All those law firms, state agencies, that's what we were dealing with. See, there was a conflict the whole time. Let's not forget, they were the ones defending Mike Rowe against Liberty Mutual. The same time they were supposed to be representing to me. They call that conflicts, a very serious conflict. Right? See, that's the control. These guys were screwing up. I was catching them. I caught the Walkers. I caught the McLeans. They brought in Morris Mahoney. All right, well, let's take a look. This was the advice of putting all these cases together. You know what the advice to me was? Let's listen to Nick Alexander's voicemail to me. So that was Nick Alexander saying we should go to the feds and he can open up a case. You know what he forgot to tell me? That he was representing Liberty Mutual. We should have been calling the FBI against him. I digress. We have. Now, in Renner's deposition, you're going to hear him say that they didn't know anything about Liberty. He didn't even type the information. Yet the narrative he took speaks to the whole corruption through the state of New Hampshire, right through the court system. So now, you see the DRA there? Right below Morris Mahoney. See? They're leveraging this. But one last thing. There's an attorney there named Kathleen Delaney. Now, you know what's interesting about Kathleen? She called me last Friday. You know, telling me she's holding the case in forbearance. Right. Translation, she's leveraging me. And I'll explain the rest. But, do you know, while this was all going on with Morris Mahoney, with the forgery on my tax returns and everything, do you know she was working for Morris Mahoney at the time? She was in the office that I took dollar statement from? That's right. Think about that. She was working for them. And now, she is the lawyer for the DA office. Wow. And do you know where she came from? Wait for it. Wiggins. That's right. And guess what? We're not done. You know this big cover-up of the AG? The snake that I'm trying to remove the head? She was married to Delaney. That's right. How connected and incestuous is this now? So, I just introduced you to the benefactors. Right? There's 4 law firms now that are controlling everything. You've got a governor, 2 senators, banking commission, U.S. attorney. We're coming out of 2 law firms. That's right. Let me introduce you, before we leave, to the banking department. See that smiling guy? He's your banking commissioner. Now, you know where I met him first? It's SUAS. I was reporting the criminality of FRM to the banking commissioner. You know who showed up? Not the banking commissioner. This guy Perlow. He was the assistant attorney general in New Hampshire. See there? When I told him about the criminality and the Ponzi scheme, FRM, everything, you know what he said? Sue me. Sue me? You're the assistant attorney general. Fix it. No, sue me. There's your cover-up. Go back to his face. See this guy? Guess where he worked? Ready? Come from the AG's office, so it only means one thing. McLean. Right. He worked in McLean. And guess what? Did you hit Perlow LinkedIn? He was an insurance defender and an environmental attorney. Now, what makes him a banker? I'll tell you what makes him a banker. What behind those doors would put them all in jail. That's what made him a banker. So the same guy covering it up is now your banking commissioner. Now think about this. Now let's else who works at the banking department. You know there's a Ingrid White. Do you know where Ingrid White worked before? Worked for Gallagher Law Firm. Let's go back. Gallagher Law Firm. Do you know who Gallagher was? Gallagher was the attorney on FRM. Right, he represented them. Do you know Hildreth? Hildreth and Gallagher was best friends. Hildreth was the banking commission before this guy. Guess what? Gallagher was covering for FRM. So the person they hired as the attorney for the banking commission worked for covering up FRM in the law firm of Gallagher. And this guy, Perlow, was covering FRM from the AG's office. Now, I couldn't write a script better than that. So that's your banking department, covering up a Ponzi scheme. But it's also where they slipped up. It's also where we can send them to jail. All right? Now, you see Richard Head to the left and to the right of the AG's office. Let's hit Head. That's right, folks. Tell me, it wasn't bad enough that their parents had to name him Dickhead. Believe it or not, that was the Assistant Attorney General. That's right. If someone needed a hole dug and throw someone in it, he was your boy. That's right, Richard Head. And guess what? He had to look like that too. You tell me Jesus had a problem with this guy. Now, he's off. He's gone to California. No kidding. Exactly at the same time, I'm turning around reporting him to the Department of Justice to give him immunity. Because you see that smiling shithead? He could give you the whole AG's office. They could give you everybody, every criminality throughout the state. That's why he's got to leave town. See? Let's look at Richard Head's notes. These are Richard Head's handwritten notes in an interview with Donna Soucy. Now, Donna Soucy is a lawyer for the banking department who was covering up the Ponzi scheme, having an interview with the guy who was covering up the Ponzi scheme from the AG's office. They were working together. You know what these notes say? That, again, are made available, will be attached to the end of the video. It said that they knew about the Ponzi scheme in 2003 and some inclination that in 1999. They referenced that Hildreth, the banking commissioner, was friends with Gallagher, and that Hildreth himself had two brothers on the Ponzi scheme. They knew about the Ponzi scheme. See, that's what they did. You know why these notes came public? They were given to me. Now, you know who they were given to me by? George Lambert. Let's take a look at Lambert. See Lambert right there? For those who haven't seen the radio show Gronk Talk, I made it a video. Now, I don't know if I believe in miracles anymore. So I have a feeling that this might have been staged. I'll explain later. But in this interview, George Lambert came in. I didn't know he was coming. Clearly, he didn't know I was coming. But in this interview, he admits to turning around and getting those notes from Richard Head that he thought was a criminal. He was given those notes to give to me to bring forward as evidence so the people of FRM would get pennies on the dollars and all signed waivers saying they wouldn't go after Shaheen and McLean and all the people that were stealing their money. Right. Lambert then went to the victims, as you would hear on this, and as he admitted, getting 20%. Mind you, he is not a lawyer. He is not a lobbyist. He was breaking the law. He was leveraging the victims because they couldn't come forwards. Right? Let's go back. That's Lambert. So between Lambert and Head, you have two witnesses to the crime and to themselves being criminals and staging a false hearing regarding FRM to get rid of it because they know that FRM could give you Shaheen and Ayotte. Ayotte covered it up. Shaheen was involved. Who do you think hired the banking commission? It was Shaheen. Now think about this. FRM. On notice. This was the actual hearing. This was the hearing that Lambert spoke at. And well, I warned the victims and talked to them, and they felt uncomfortable about Lambert getting them the 20%. That's when I figured out what was going to happen. That video is out there. Since then, I called out Head and U.S. Attorney Kakavas. They both resigned since. That's right. Hit Kakavas. You know why he resigned? He was the prosecutor of it. And where did he go to? You know where he went to? The Dartmouth Hospital. This guy's still saving money for the insurers. And don't forget who was on that Liberty Mutual complaint, Kakavas. That's right, you can't make this up. Everybody from Wigan. So, let's go back. So, FRM, it was all staged for the criminality. There was Lambert on Gronk Talk. The victims. You see? So Head's not the mastermind. Let me take you back to that picture again. Ahead. Does he look like the mastermind? Let's go back. So that means he's working for Foster. And I don't believe Foster, who's worked for McLean for 29 years. Right? His instructions are, make FRM go away. And he gave me the notes. You ready? Now Senator Avard. Let's hit him. Now Senator Avard, which I've been friends with and worked with for many years. In fact, if you ask Kevin who sponsored the Regress Committee, he'll give you one name. That's right, me. And here's a letter that he wrote. And this letter, because I informed him, he talked to Lambert, and it's true. Lambert caught a deal for 20% to shut them up, while Kevin didn't know. Kevin is the state senator, again, who put the bill up there to get the money back for the victims. Except for he was going to get leveraged. He didn't know he was being used for. Listen, I like you, Kevin, but you are one naive son of a bitch. And now let's keep going. Now, this letter that would co-sign my accusations with the Department of Justice. Go back. See? I sent my criminal complaint form. Washington, D.C. The plan was that I met with Kevin and that we were both going to send it into the Department of Justice. Go back. But the only problem happened. I sent mine in. I explained to Kevin, and Representative John Burke was also there. We all agreed that this was criminal, what they were doing. They understood how it was being done. And Kevin was all on board. We were going to send our complaints in together so we could both be protected, witness to one to another. But Kevin turned around and got a phone call. Would you hit Sununu, please? See this guy? He just announced he's running for governor. Guess what? He calls Kevin and goes, hey, Kevin, this thing with FRM. He goes, is it true about Lambert and Head? He goes, wait a minute. Don't file the complaint to the Department of Justice. Send it to the AG's office. What? So as I sent mine to the Department of Justice in Washington, he sends his complaint to the AG's office because this guy told him to. Who's running for governor? Right. Now why would he do that? Why would he tell the criminals of the AG that we're turning them in to themselves? Well, they did assign somebody. Right. Dick Tracy. No shit. Dick Tracy is looking for Dickhead, who just went to California. Will someone tell him? They were sitting next to each other, but he's moved. Nah. Why would he do that? Well, how about this? If he sent it to Washington, Sunshine here couldn't leverage the corrupt. Right. You think about that. Well, let's keep going. Do you know what Sununu did? Well, first of all, you see those texts? What happened? Now, Kevin's not that insightful, but he did say this. Sununu smells blood in the water, and so does Shaheen. Really? And he told Kevin, don't worry about Head. He's not getting the job. Hassan's going to get him the executive job. I'm going to stop that. Exactly right. He couldn't have Head get paid off, because that's how they pay you off in this state. They give you a job, usually a better job, depending on how corrupt you are. Now he's using the leverage against these guys to pressure them. Head resigns. That means he's leaving town. Who do you think made him resign? Right there. And then, the same day, after he talked to Kevin, and went to the AG's office, to the Department of Justice, he calls Harry Bean. Harry is one of the victims of FRM. Harry had about as much chance of getting a call from this guy as Scratchy the Bum getting a call from this guy. See? You know what he told Harry? Don't worry, Harry. We're going to take care of Head. Wow. Because you know what? The FRM victims know Head was part of the cover-up. See? So now, Sununu's got the victims going, hey, thanks. And he's leveraging the criminals to get them pennies, as they were going to do. Shut them up. And Kevin, hey, listen, Kevin, you're going to be the state senator, gets a few pennies back for the victims. Except for, we shut the door on all the real corruption. This guy leverages the corrupt and becomes your next senator. How's that for playing the game? Let's go back. You just saw your FRM scheme. Head and Lambert puts all these guys in jail, including Foster Delaney, that gets the Ayotte, that gets the Shaheen. Really. Now, Kevin, I hope you're watching, because this is the position you put me in. Let's go to Cohen. See, when Head at the same time, when I was going to the Department of Justice, and they had you going to the AG, they came at me with a summary judgment. Right. You know what a summary judgment is? That's when you get a judge to rule on something without calling a witness or looking at any evidence. Really, it's a favor to theirs. Now, just so in case anybody's bored, there's another forgery. And this is a forgery on a state tax return. Now let's go to Cohen's deposition. Cohen was the accountant. And Lisa Tracy, you remember, my controller, that that was queuing everybody used to work for Cohen. That's how I got Cohen as an accountant. So let's look at a question to Cohen. The guy who works, Alex Walker, who worked for the DRA, meaning it was a gentleman that Walker had, Maurice Gilbert, that worked for the DRA, that was working inside the DRA for Walker, and Walker was giving instructions. Were you familiar with the situation with the DRA? His answer, none whatsoever. Yes, you didn't fix the K-1. It created a major situation with the DRA, wouldn't you say? His answer again, I wasn't involved with it. He knew it was all forged. He knew they were leveraging me with it and it wasn't true, which is why he couldn't look into it. Next, the K-1 issue would cost $2.7 million. Wouldn't you have hired a CPA and accountant to look into it? Since I wasn't involved with it, I wouldn't even know what to fix. Wow. Wow. So what did you do? Nothing. Well, the K-1s, didn't it prepare the tax returns? Will you have any knowledge? I don't believe I've engaged in any work. Nothing for the DRA. So this is what he's saying. Ready? Let's go back to that DRA tax return for a second. You see that stamp on it? It says Cohen. Right? That means our boy Cohen just lied in the deposition flat out. He signed it. You know why I never signed it? I couldn't see it. Because it was false, and the DRA had to leverage me with a tax return, even though it was forged and false. See? That's how it works. And the courts gave Cohen a walk, right? Because they knew he could lead them through the corruption. Not micro. These are Divine Millimat, Morris Mahoney. This gets you everybody. Let's go back. How many forgeries, by the way, do you want to see in a day? So let's go to the court. Anderson. Now remember, at the same time as Head is working through the FRM, trying to blow that up, and Kevin was supposed to the Department of Justice. This is what happens, Kevin, when you don't. And you hung me out to dry. They dropped a summary judgment. Hit Anderson. Summary judgment. Now you know who wrote this? That's right, our boy Richard Head. Got it? From the AG's office. You remember what the AG's office is supposed to do? It defends its state's agencies. I'm going after the DRA. You know what they do? Put Head on the job. Summary judgment. And guess what? In this guy Anderson court. Let's go back. Now you know who this smiling asshole is? This is the replacement for McHugh. Right. Same courtroom. He's cleaning up the messes. He knows where these things could go. It is transcripts. Who do you think gave me a summary judgment, signed off on it, right? He did. They couldn't have witnesses. There it is. There's Anderson, right? Head writes it off. He gives it a summary judgment, and he's off to California. How's that for a cover-up? Go back. And don't forget McHugh. McHugh was the same guy. You be the jury. You know, with the forgery. Right. That's how it works. Let's go. So, I want you to look at both Head and Head. You see at the same time, he worked the information with the FRM to get rid of that. At the same time, he leverages me with all the court corruption and all these people that I've incriminated. So, at the same time, he's eliminating all their problems. All. I mean, you can't write this script better. Right? All right, now let's go to our witnesses. See this guy, Jutras? Let's see what he does. He was only my attorney in a divorce, but what he wasn't supposed to really is get it through statutes of limitations. That's what these guys do. Ready? Let's hit Tober's. This was my wife's attorney, Stephen Tober. Now listen, this ain't about a divorce. This is about the corruption in the courtroom. My kids are all adults now, but I am telling you I am not going to allow this to happen to any more people, children. So, go up. So this here, right, we had a mediation. And in this mediation, our smiling boy here, Tober, wants a release. Right. Go back. Now, Jutras doesn't tell me. He hands me over maybe 3 inches of documentation, tells me to sign it. Except for I went through it. And guess what? He asked for a release. Judge Goldstein, who was in that, said he hasn't seen that criminality in 30 years of practicing. That's right. 30 years. He's never had an opposing attorney ask for his own release. And in fact, he told Sarah that she needs another attorney. Right. He planted it there. He covered them through statutes of limitations and tried to sneak past a release. Hit the FBI letter. Right? So, if you think what I'm saying doesn't meet that level, he did. That's a letter from Carmen Ortiz. Keep going up. That he sent in and supposedly talked to. This is who he communicated with that sent me this letter. Go back. Right? Carmen Ortiz. Let's go to the next witness. Maria Pizzuto. She's a key witness here. Key. In her narrative. Now I'll hit it, but I'll let you read it. She formed all the cases against individuals within the state. All the criminal, DRA, tax, everything she did. And then she would give the information to, go back, to Morris Mahoney. That formed the complaints that went out. You see those legal complaints? That was the information she put together. Go back. So in putting all this together, she saw the criminality. Now let's take a look at her text. Again, she's now married, start from the beginning. She's now married to Bob Jutras, right? Now I'm going to read you some of her text. She asked me here, can you get on YouTube? Well, I'm going to try. Mike, I have some information that will change the face of this, but you need to be super careful, including your own safety. Remember, all these will be attached. But you have to do it covertly. Your safety is in danger. Don't be vocal moving forward. I think you have to understand the true evil nature of things. You have to assume you're up against evil, not just corruption. You have to keep your plans secret. Right? I told you there were spies. She was honest coming into this. Again, you keep underestimating the fear factor of the very evil, corrupt group. At the top, it goes beyond criminal. They scare the hell out of the little guy practicing on their own. Many dads are being cut from their children's lives with no evidence. She was now married to one of the power brokers in this whole thing. She is discovering this as I am. And she's afraid that I'm going to be killed. Yes, there is. All big, powerful firms. All the ones who have sued. She's agreeing that the ones we're suing are the right ones that are running the state. She's saying they're connected to the judiciary. Connected to the judges. This is a closed network protecting one another. What have I been trying to tell you this whole time? What it's really predicting is the level of evil. Regular chess moves don't work. Sorry. Call investigators. Interview until you find someone you can trust. Hire. Personal security. Mike, I'm saying this for your own good. Stop turning New Hampshire's attorneys for help. Stop playing right into their hands. Keep your enemy close this time. Play along. Set them up. I get things done behind the scenes. Then a special thing comes up. And you know what that was? She discovered that Ted and Tony were spies. I'm 100% sure that Tony's job is to set me up the way Dollar is. Remember? Dollar was my attorney. They got her in hiding in Oklahoma, worried to be killed. You see? She's starting to put that together. Tony hasn't changed his job on the BBO. He still works for himself. Clean tax. See, she knew the IRS was the place to go. Now watch. This is very important. obvious Ortiz office got a call when they had a heads up. Simple thing to do. Let's go back for a second. You see that with Ortiz office? Let's visit Miss Ortiz. You know who Miss Ortiz is? She's the U.S. Attorney in Massachusetts. Let's hit the FBI letter. See? That came from Bob. Raise up. See? So she got it. She can't say it does. Now let's go to go back. Marisa's text message. See? They got to her office. All right, now let's go back to Ortiz. Did you know I went to the FBI? I turned around and they blocked me at the door. I had all this information. I had this information. How did they even know I was coming in? I'll explain how. They did the same thing in Bedford. She knows. And now there's a cover-up. We've got Friedman saying he's going to the FBI. We've got Jutras saying he's going to the FBI. And there it was. Let's go back. So, Miss Ortiz, they're saying they got to your office. And I believe she's right. Let's go on to Marisa's text. Mike, I'm 100% sure about Tony. 100%. He's going to sink the whole thing and get a private investigator and forensic. Tony was handling, guess what, everybody? The DRA. Right, going after Morris Mahoney. It was all a setup. Mike, on LinkedIn, can you see Tony was the same department as Nick at Morris Mahoney? And his claims to have saved tons of money for the insurers. Now think about that. I will watch it again. Zero Dark 30 movie. Catching Bin Laden. It sounds like the same terrorist organization in New Hampshire. Legal terrorists. You see? You will never get justice. And she left after that. And I'll explain. Let's go back to Friedman. Friedman. Well, Friedman was my attorney with the Banking Commission. All fake claims. All fake consent orders. In fact, in his deposition, he turns around and points out to the criminality. He calls what he's seen in the banking department in New Hampshire was the worst corruption he's ever seen. That's right. He knows. And when questioned about Morris Mahoney, he said they did commit malpractice. His explanation was that if I represented you, it would be like suing my own customer. Meaning Friedman had conflicts. But guess who? Liberty Mutual. And he pointed out that so did Morris Mahoney, and they committed malpractice. Now listen, Friedman's not that generous with that information. He just knew it could have led to him. And he knew he had to predict the Ponzi scheme. See? So we threw it back on Morris Mahoney, but missed nothing. They worked together. Friedman covered up the banking. Morris Mahoney covered up the courts and the corruption through the state. It's that simple. Go back to Friedman. It's in a sworn deposition. That is evidence. Do you think that Friedman, he told me he was going to go to the FBI. He told me he lived on the street as Carmen Ortiz. Let's hit Friedman's voice, man.
I don't know what Nick is thinking.
Okay. He's a Friedman saying going to Ortiz in the FBI. Except for when I sat down with Friedman, with Marisa, who you just met, who wrote all that, the complaints together, he turned around and asked for his own release. He goes to me after his deposition, after he incriminates himself, and said, oh, you know what, I know a guy who's going to mediate the whole thing. Right. His name was Gary Lambert. Hit Lambert's release. Fee agreement, please. See? Scroll up. Down. This is Gary Lambert. You'll be happy to know that Lambert was running for Congress at the time. Right. Guess what? He's a lawyer. Right. In the Old Boys Network in New Hampshire. He was a former state senator. That's right. But he had one issue in mediation. He had to give Friedman a release. See? Get Lambert release. That was the check for the fee agreement. All right, kill. So Lambert asked me to release Friedman before he would mediate. It was the whole plan. It was the Old Boy Network going down, having Friedman incriminate himself with all the people that was involved. He had a conflict with every single one. Morris Mahoney, Divine Miller, Matt McLean, all of them. He was, along with Morris Mahoney, the controller of this. And that shifty bastard on your right lost the election. Off. Now, let's go back to Ted Little. These are some of my attorneys. See that guy? That was his last day of employment. Right. You see all those bags? He didn't come in with them. His job right along was destroying files and evidence. Right. When I fired Morris Mahoney, he was the guy who had to come in and plant. Hit Little's text messages. Now, you know what I did after? We caught this guy. Look what he does. This is his texts to me. Leverage. Keep going up. Right? Keep going. He wants to turn around and say, you need a prepaid disposable phone. Right? Because you know why he knows? Because he knows I'm being listened to. Pretty mysterious, huh? Enemy of friend, or is my enemy still my friend? Up. Hold on. Down a little. Keep it in. So you know me, and you know the tapes, and you know what? I am an honest man trying to do the right thing, wanted to help. So I assume that you are a friend again. Treat me like one. Up. Friends are hard to come by these days. After I witness what I have, I believe the truth doesn't matter anymore. Up. I do know both sides. Done wrong. Yes, I do care. No people get shipped out of state. You not hear from them again. What type of info I have. And you know that has already happened a couple times. So I don't need friends. I need a little fish swimming in a pond full of sharks. Who played the cards right so far, ready to cash in? I won't give you a free tip. Don't talk on your phone. They are tapped. Really? Now why are people tapping my phone? Up. Invested in disposable. Thank you for the advice. I do. Why did you contact me if you have these things? You don't really think that I don't know. Being Kate, here's a free tip for me. I don't quit. I don't ever quit. I've contacted you because I want to help. I've contacted you because you have one beautiful word on them, leverage. You never quit. It's in your DNA. I'm very serious about doing good. I need to move my two boys to California, their mother's place. I do not care what happens after that. I will say you can protect me, but I'm not a guarantee. So he wants money to fly his kids to California. Go. He's afraid for their life, their safety. Keep going. Keep going. Once he puts his boys on the plane, then he said he'll come forward. He knows what's going on. Keep going. These people can stop your life in a heartbeat. Again, I won't move. You may feel that this guy was my attorney. He's afraid to come forward unless his children are in a plane going across the country. Now, what makes someone that afraid? And remember Marisa worrying about her life and mine? Keep going. Keep going. I have what you need. I am ready to protect my sons. Keep going. I know others, children, like yourself. You have 4 boys and 1 girl. He put my daughter's name there. You would do the same for them in possible trouble. But unfortunately, Sarah lives in Wyndham. So, this is this bastard telling me my name of my ex-wife, the fact that I have 5 children, and my daughter's name. Go down. You can beat these thugs. Offer a shortcut. Keep going down. I need my boys in the air. Right? You hand over tapes, pictures, files, documents. Now you think about that. Who has all that stuff on me and why? Really? I haven't broken any laws. You know why? You know if I did, you know I wouldn't be talking to you here right now. Go down. That you should see arguing. As a father yourself. I see you're saying, obviously I know this. I would never be able to say this, what I know. Keep going. My kids come first. Keep going down. Then they tell me, I can prove that you have a rat. Really? I catch a lot of rats, but not your biggest one yet. I've already caught Lisa Tracy. Maybe you didn't hear, right? And I know they leveraged her. They leveraged her with her children, as I told you. Ready? I told you that already. You did. This is a bigger one. Really? Bigger than Lisa Tracy, which also confirms that she was a spy. Go down. Then we talk about whether I can do it. I say I'm going to put it on YouTube. And then he's telling me, where do I leave my briefcase? Put the money in it. Go up. He knows that I'm doing a RICO case. Really? And you're going to do it next week. That's his way of telling me he has information. You know what? He was right. Go down. Wants me to go to a mall. Food court. You know why? You are very interesting, you are, Mike Hill. Because I was going to kick his ass in the next week. Down. No deal. Lowered my standards. Me here. Down. Want to talk. Talking about, go down. The terms, I disagree. Go down. He wanted me to meet him in a mall. Go down. In front of other people. No, I'm protecting my family, my ex-wife as possible. You can say you're acting like crooks. Down. I took a lot of work to get here. A number of my last step protecting my boys. I agree that these are assholes to pay. But if we take the proper steps and get it done today, and all yours allow. Keep going down. All right, let's go off. So, he goes on and he threatens my children. Tell me where my son moved to. We moved in with. Go back. But what makes him so afraid? Because he worked for these people. He knows who they are. Let's go to Miller. Amy Miller. It was an attorney we got. You know, in the reference on Ted's text, he says Miller. He points her out as the spy. Oh, and by the way, she's still not the biggest rat that he referenced. I found out who. But Miller here. So, in those, I sent Miller 2 emails. The day before this deposition. In this email, I'm simply asking her what she's been speaking to the other attorneys on the case that we're suing. Next email. In fact, I made it very direct. I go, in the conversations you've had with Bob Curley, of Curley and Curley, representing Morris Mahoney, what have you said? Well, this is what she said to me. The deposition stopped. Right. She turned around and told me, if I told you, it would incriminate me. Really? Hit affidavit 1, right? This is an affidavit. I've got 2 affidavits that were witnesses 5 feet from when she said and told me that, and said exactly, next one. As I said, 2 affidavits saying exactly that. So you know what? She walked right out. Back. But you know what? We use a camera. And that was Peabody and Arnold's attorney, right next to her. We were filming out the window. When they saw we were filming, they were only out there talking for another hour and a half. Let's not forget, I just fired her ass, right? What did they have in common? In fact, when I went out there, Miller turned around and said to me, oh, we were just talking. I live in Somersworth. I live in Brighton. She lives in Somersville. Wow, that's a hell of a lot common. Here's why. They didn't want to be able to have a tape and read the lips. You see that picture there? That's them getting the cops to try to take the tape. I'll tell you what I told the cops. I'll give you my tape the minute you walk across the street and get Walmart security tape. Guess who kept their tape? Next. So that was Miller trying to corrupt it. She was working with Liberty Mutual. Dan Lynette. See that smiling ass? He was my IT guy. He was the guy that was doing the cameras on the videos. Except, he was working with them. You remember what the text message says, even a bigger rat? This guy's worked for me close to 15 years. Right. He was the big rat. Every time. How do you think they knew everything we were doing? He called the FBI. Remember we filmed in Bedford and they were threatening me. How did they know I was coming? How did they know I was coming to Boston? He was doing it because he was filming it. Right. Dan Lynette's deposition. The one, I asked him where he worked. First, he goes that he has now a job at Spoke. He is a senior software engineer, which is pretty interesting in itself. Seeing he's not an engineer, he doesn't know any software, and I don't know how that makes him senior. But I do think it's a payoff. All right? Lisa Tracy was contacting him. The question I had for him was, did you speak to Lisa Tracy? He goes, oh, after I was terminated. He says, only once. But we have it in text message that he called several times. In fact, now, how many times did you talk to Lisa Tracy since you were terminated? Oh, a couple. And I want you to understand something. This guy is a videographer. He is putting up the fact that Lisa Tracy is being leveraged by Shaheen in these videos. He recognizes the fact that her husband molested her children, and he read it in the Lawrence Eagle Tribune. Okay? Now he's in communication. Lisa's working with them. He is giving her the information of what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. What's going on? Now remember, Lisa's being leveraged by Shaheen. This guy is working directly with Shaheen. Now let's think more about this. Let's go on. We produced videos together. You obviously knew the content. So when you were putting Lisa up being leveraged and her husband being guilty of child molestation, you were on the phone. What did you talk to her about? Know what he said? The weather. Wow. Only talked about the weather. And then I went to the video. And I said, you put Wall of Corruption together with me? Vaguely, right? Well, he did. And then he went over those text messages that I showed you before from Ted Little. You know, the ones who threatened to murder my children as we went on. Oh yeah, he does have a vague memory of that. Only a vague memory that they threatened to murder my children. I remember reading it off your phone. What was that? I remember reading it off your phone. So you saw the text messages on my phone. I heard you read them. I didn't see them. Really? We printed them and put them on there. He did. I saw copies and produced them. Oh, yes. Oh. So you saw copies of the text messages. You know what? I said to him, I go, yeah, they came from Manchester. Now, between me and you, I didn't see that they came from Manchester. I didn't know where they came from. But you know what he said? Oh, no, they came from Maine. Really? Now, how did he know that? See? And now this thing with Miller. You see that shot with Miller? You know, reading the lips? Well, who think took that shot? He did. Guess what got destroyed but that little snapshot? That's right. And who do you think destroyed it? The same one who was queuing in the FBI. The same one that was getting the information from Lisa Tracy. He was putting this out about the child molestation, and all they could do was talk about is the weather? Right. And don't miss this fact that he knew where that came from. Those text messages came from. We didn't know. Let's go to Shannon. Now, I don't know how many of you saw Married to the Mob. But that's a video that I would like you to watch. Because what that is, Shannon Donnelly, I have her deposition too. Now the first thing I did, where do you work right now? The state of New Hampshire. I hope that sounds familiar to everybody. Because again, that's how you get paid off in silence. Not one lump sum, but a job, right? Dan Lynette, software engineer. They gave Lisa a job too. Everybody gets a job. All right. Now, she works for the state. And I asked, I go, how did we meet? This was very slick. They met as a victim. She called me months before. As I get many calls, and I sit down with people and talk to them who are victims in the court. That's exactly what I did with her. Except for, she wasn't really a victim, but a spy. She worked for Liberty Mutual and Penn National. See? I've called out Penn National about this corruption, and its wire, and its fraud, and its briberies. What? I also called them the mafia. And I even had wire transfers that proved it. Let's go on. And I asked her, do you believe in the mafia? Do I? She says, yes. Wait a minute. Most people don't. Why wouldn't you say that? I wish I weren't that ignorant. Why? She seems pretty certain about the mob. Because you know it's true. Now, isn't it? Oh, there's a lot of different kinds of mafia. Well, you know the ones that call themselves the Cosa Nostra. Oh, I don't know that stuff. Well, we call it organized crime. So you believe in organized crime? I do. Was there a reason why you believe in organized crime? Because I've experienced it firsthand in a lot of corruption. I couldn't believe a lot of experience I've been exposed to. Was your husband in the mafia? Not that I know he was in the mafia, but he did. When I was going through my divorce, I hired a PI to sail the business. Was allegedly his business into a mafia person in Massachusetts. Listen, he's in the pizza business, and he was in the pizza bowl business. Right? Do you believe he's in the mafia? I do. And when I was doing the video, Mafia Alive and Well, right? I want you guys to watch Mafia Alive and Well, and I'll tell you why. When I was going through all those wires, and from Penn National, from Cantor Gaming, and I was suggesting that they were paying off politicians, right? Yes. Well, do you remember when I was going through all those wires that I got from a woman who was married to a state trooper who was in charge of payoffs? Yeah. And they had Penn National on it, They had even Wynn Casino up in Massachusetts. But they also had a gentleman by the name of Lightbody, Donacio, and guess what? Foxy Lady, and a few others. These were wires going into these places. They were bookies. See it? They were payoffs through Penn National. She worked for both. She was part of the mafia who owns Penn National. They wanted to pay me off with Liberty Mutual combined. So your corruption of the state meets the mafia and comes to an agreement. You think I'm kidding? She just admitted to it. Now, I asked her when she saw all this and seen all the wires, I'm telling you there was a look on her face. And then I confronted her and say, do you know anything about the mafia? Are you involved in the mafia? Just from the look. That was her last day. Now in this deposition, when I had her read the articles from the Boston Globe, let's go back. See this Boston Globe? Just so you know, I'm not off. That was the Wynn Casino. And you know what they're saying? Oh, you see Lightbody? New England Costa Nostra? Yeah, I got wires into these guys, right? You know whose name was with their wires? A guy by the name of Vaselli. Let me show you something. Go back. Vaselli's name was on the wire. I asked Shannon what her husband's maiden name was. And you know what she said? Vessel. Well, guess what? Who do you think was on the wires? He was number 5. Right. And you know why she turned pale? Because she saw it. She knew it was her maiden name, and she knew I caught him, and they brought her in. How's that? You ready for the movie yet? Let's go back. Now watch that video. The woman working for the state of New Hampshire, whose husband's in the mafia, she gets caught. I get 5 wires with names on them, and she's got her husband on it. Right? I mean, you can't make that up. All right. Now remember now, these are all witnesses. Each and every one of them. Right? I mean, I've got multiple people there afraid for their lives. They know inside information. Now let's go to this Pike. Last deposition I'll show you. See this smiling shithead? He was responsible for the DRA and the IRS, which was a forgery. This should have been easy for him. In fact, we caught all the criminality, right? Hit releases. I had 2 attorneys there. I had Pike and a gentleman named Breen. They were working together. Do you see what that name is right there? That's Breen. Now go up again. That's to Kate Cousette of the DRA. And what that is an offer to release from civil liability and assistance on helping her on the criminality. All right? So we send this. Go up a little bit just so you get a picture of what this exactly is. It was a federal. You see federal authorities. All right. Now I want you to notice down here, that Breen signed it. Now let's go back. Do you know, these releases, there was 20 of them. And in these 20, Pike and Breen signed every one. Go down. Let's see if we have some more. Oh, there's another one. Let's see. Oh, now we get 2 signatures. Go down again. Let's see who we got here. Oh, Lorraine Colby of the IRS. 2 signatures. Let's go down again. We've got Bill Shaheen, one of my personal favorites, right? He gets a letter. Up. Fleury, the banking commission, assistant banking commission, he gets a letter. You know, we'll give you a release and we'll help you with the Fed so they don't throw your ass in jail for too fucking long. Now, let's go back to the top again. See that? The DRA. Now why did he sign 20 out of 21? But he didn't sign that one. Wow. Let's go to his deposition. You know what it says here? I asked him a question. Did you ever work for the DRA? Ready? Yes. He was an intern there for the Department of Revenue. Wow. Well, you did work for the company. for the Department of Revenue, right? We had a forgery. So you did talk to the DRA? Yes. What was discussed? I don't recall. You don't recall the specifics? You had the DRA issue yourself. You were handling it. Yes, I was. You did? What was it? I don't recall. Really? You worked on it. I said I did. You talked to the DRA. I said I did. You have no memory that you worked on and what was said? I can only recall that it was tax related. Wow. Genius. So you're working on tax issues for myself and the company. So I hired you as a tax attorney, right? Yes. Wouldn't it make sense that a tax attorney would do tax work? Okay. I don't recall specifically what was discussed. Are you saying we only had one conversation with the DRA? I'm saying I don't recall how many conversations. So we get the idea that this guy's been talking to the DRA multiple times. And I keep going on. Even when I asked him, well, once you left mortgage specialist, where'd you go? Who'd you apply to work? You ready for this, boys and girls? You know what his answers was? I applied for a job at the DRA. Wait a minute. Question. You might have? He goes, yes. So you're not sure if you did or you didn't. I'm not sure what date I applied. Well, I didn't ask you with that. I said, did you apply for the DRA? I find that unusual. Yes. So let's not miss this, boys and girls. My lawyer, who's going after and suing the DRA for this criminality and this forgery, I fire him. He gets a job with the DRA. Although they didn't get the job yet, you know why? It was too soon. He was promised a job. You're unsure of that? Go back. He signs 20 out of 21. Now you tell me what the possibility is there. Hit Pike deposition. What I'm telling you is on the internet. Alright? In their words. You see if I'm missing anything. One more important thing. You ready? Driscoll was an attorney that was here for a week. That worked closely with Pike. You know what Pike said? Oh, we got a notification from the court that Driscoll works for Liberty Mutual. Right. Hard evidence of Liberty Mutual. In the deposition, an attorney, Driscoll, who was working with Pike, kind of took Pike under his wing. Let's hit Driscoll for a second. You know what? We got something from the court on the cases he was working for us on. See Chris Driscoll right there? See where that says to our rights? We're sending the information to LibertyMutual.com. He was still working for it. And when we brought that up to Pike, you know what Pike said? Oh, that'd be a conflict. A conflict with who? Oh, with Divine Millimat and all the lawsuits. He knew that. And Driscoll was a spy. Let's go back. How many spies? How many people are afraid for their lives? One last thing. I'd like you to read an email. In fact, I'll put it up there so you can see it. It's from Brian Barrington. You know, the corrupt bastard's been with me in these depositions working for Liberty. But hold on. This is a settlement request. It is certainly not our choice. I am just the messenger. No, the settlement would be global to end all litigations. Global. Could you call that organized in more than one? Right? Everybody's saying they're innocent. And yet, they're putting the word global themselves and referring to themselves. Let's go on. The demand, however, would be allocated among the parties. Parties. More than one. Certainly, Divine is the lion's share of the loss. Divine Millimat. Remember Alex Walker? Remember? All these parties? Those were the parties. Right. And it's in writing. A global settlement, more than one. This is organized crime, and that is an admission of it. You just saw the fix. You just saw how these law firms control your whole state. But we do have the AG's office. We've caught them. We've got Richard Head, his notes. We've got Lambert incriminating himself with the victims of FRM. We've got these guys. Why do you think Richard Head's moving? Why do you think they're getting rid of him? The same day the Department of Justice sends a U.S. attorney here, brand new one. She's a lawyer from Manchester. They co-signed Ayotte and Shaheen. Oh, by the way, those are the two you should be looking for. And you know how you can find them? With Richard Head, which is maybe why he's gone. All right? Listen. You know what instinct is? Sometimes I've heard people define it, maybe commonly, as a feeling that you have that you just can't back up with information or knowledge. But if I'm telling you that isn't what instinct is, what instinct is a lifetime of experiences and knowledge. I am telling you, I packed it into a very small period of time. A lot of experience with a little insight. For instance, if you were eating a ham sandwich, I would tell you what the pig ate yesterday. That's where I'm at right now. No, trust your instincts. Your instinct is a life of experiences. What does your instinct tell you? Is this not the truth? Have you not witnessed this? In every agency in the state, in the courts and divorces, in the civil lawsuits throughout the state, within the state courts, all agencies, the DRA, the Banking Commission, health, multiple, they own them. Have I taken you different agencies? They were coming out of 1 or 2, 3 law firms, mostly 2. I mean, there's no accident there. They're married, they're swapping. You're in control. Now listen, these guys aren't in love with each other. They're jockeying for power. McLean has the AG. Sununu has the governor and a senator. McLean has a senator. They had the U.S. attorney. They got your banking commissioner. Right? That's what's going on. Trust your instincts that says right here, right now. I'm going to tell you something else. They're watching this more than you are. They're holding their breaths. The big question is, what will you do if you know? And you know for sure. Understand this. If we don't win right now, they go unchecked, just like it's been. Do you think someone else is coming to save you? Someone who's going to put all their money on the line. Even their freedom. Even their life. And if nothing happens now, when you've been shown everything, guess what? That's a license to steal more. Right. I showed you what they're doing with me. I put it all out there. I knew ahead of time. That's called insight. I knew where I'd be. Here's the question. What are you going to do? Are you mad enough? Are you injured enough? And listen, if it's not you, was it a friend? Even if it's not a friend, I didn't lose no money in FRM. This stuff's got to end. I did go through a divorce in these courts. I did sue these people. How do you think I found them? Right? It's not that I believe the depth of criminality could go this far. It's just that it did. So here, this is what we're going to do different. At the end of this video, we're going to have stateofcorruption.org, and we're going to ask you to email. Email that you want this investigated. Also email if there was any issues that you had, any corruption that you've been a victim of. I want to know that too, and I want you to send it to me. We're going to create a petition. I've spoken to many politicians, believe me, and I don't like to. But it comes up. They all respect one thing. Numbers. Let's give them numbers. But we want something back from our numbers. We want justice. We want our state back. Not too hard. These bastards work for us. We forgot that. But we're going to get it back with that petition. I'm also going to send a complaint to the Department of Justice. You see all this evidence? It's going to Washington. And I'm going to send it to a brand new U.S. attorney in New Hampshire. Right? I'm holding my breath with the U.S. attorney. Why would you let Head go? Right? And Kevin, did you see what happened, Kevin Abart? This is what happened. We have an opportunity right here, right now. The moons are aligning. I even did this knowing the corruption in horse racing throughout the country and organized crime. How do you think I tracked the wire transfers up here? Who do you think they came from? Well, guess what? They've already had 23 arrests and another 30 to come within the next 2 weeks. Now, who predicted that 5 years ago? 3 years ago? Laid it all out. Well, I'm laying it out here. I'm on ESPN every Sunday saying what's happening, telling them, listen, I'm more sure about this. This is our one opportunity to turn around and say no more. I need your help. Listen, if I have to run for governor, I will. I would prefer the Justice Department just throw these bastards in jail and we go on with our lives. But I'm telling you, I won't drop this. I'll fight this fight with you right to the end. Okay, thank you.